If you're a cyclist, then you probably have one of these, a head unit. Whether it be a Garmin, a Wahoo, or yeah, even your iPhone, which now allows for power meter connectivity, it's nice to see your stats when you're riding your bike. I've been experimenting with dozens of different data screens to see which is best in which specific circumstance. Which stats do I need? How does it look? What will get me the furthest? So in today's video, we're going to talk about exactly that. What are the best Garmin data screens for each specific circumstance? My name's Ely. I'm a strength coach specifically for cyclists. Let's dive in. So circumstance number one is going to be the FTP test. If you've ever done an FTP test outside or a field test, and you've ever done it on RPE or rate of perceived exertion, then typically you're not going to want your power number or your heart rate numbers out in front of you. So here are the important metrics to note. Number one is lap time. Number two, cadence. There are a bunch of optional metrics you can use here as well, including distance, speed, time of day, average speed, etc. This is how I typically set mine up. I have the cadence in the top, the speed in the middle, time of day, average speed, and the lap time. The reason that lap time and cadence are so important. Lap time is important because you want to know how much time that you have left in that lap. So if you're doing a 20-minute FTP test, you want to know how much longer is left, and that's where lap time comes in. You click that lap button, you see exactly how much time has happened. Cadence is important because you probably have a comfortable cadence range. And especially for an effort such as FTP, which is highly aerobic, you want to keep your cadence a little bit higher to activate those slow twitch muscle fibers, because that's where the oxidative stuff comes into play. Typically in lower cadences, 70, 60, stuff like that, you are putting a lot more stress on the muscular system. Whereas on higher cadences, 90, 100, 110, you're putting a lot more stress on the cardiovascular and oxidative systems, which is what you want to do in that FTP test. Now I put all this other stuff like speed and average speed and time of day just because I want to know that information. You can really switch those out. The reason I don't put my power or my heart rate data is because the whole idea of RPE, or rate of perceived exertion, is to see what my mind is saying, how my body is feeling. A lot of the time, if we have a specific number in mind, like I want to aim for 330 on this 20-minute segment, and we're looking at that power, it can either derail us from getting the number or hold us back, or maybe we push too hard. Who knows, whatever it is. So using RPE means not showing the power numbers or your heart rate data and just relying on how your body feels for that lap. I personally don't like having my heart rate data in front of me either, because I feel that sometimes if I see my heart rate, it ends up raising my heart rate and psyching me out a little bit. So it's just more of a mental thing. Not to mention your heart rate is also affected by nerves and caffeine and stuff like that. The other thing to note about doing an FTP test is you want to do it in the same conditions every time you repeat it. If you have a relatively flat course that you're doing outside, fantastic, do it around that course. And next time you do an FTP test, do it on the same course. That way it has the same repeatability and you're going to be able to have more accurate, consistent results. Cool, that's the FTP test. Number two, the workout. So the important metrics to display here: your target power, 3-second power, cadence, time remaining, and reps to go. Your optional ones are your heart rate, your timer, your distance, your speed, etc. Now, I love the target power function here. Not only does it tell me what I should be aiming for in terms of my power, but it also tells me if I'm hitting it or not. If I'm going too high, it's in the red. If I'm going too low, it's in the red. And if I'm in that zone, then I'm getting a nice green color, and I like the color green. And that's fundamental for keeping me in the right zones during my rides. Cadence is important for the same reason I mentioned earlier in the FTP test, namely you probably have a comfortable cadence already, or if you're doing drills with high cadences or low cadences such as fast pedals, then you're going to want to regulate that, right? And so having that cadence number is valuable. The time remaining is also really cool because it tells you how much time you have in that specific rep. So let's say you have, an hour of zone 2, it's counting down. And the reps to go is also super important because sometimes it helps you mentally and physically prepare yourself for what's coming. Let's say you have 15 7-second sprints with 2 minutes between. You know that after 7 sprints, oh, how many did I do? How many do I have left? You still have 8 left. So you can mentally and physically prepare yourself for what's coming. Again, I still don't like having my heart rate all the time just because I think I'm able to do more when I'm not consistently watching it, but that might just be me. That's an optional thing that you can have in there as well. Circumstance number 3, the Joyride or the active recovery ride. What's important for the active recovery ride or the Joyride? Distance, timer, 3-second power, percent of max heart rate, and maybe time of day. I just like having that. It's like having a watch on. I like to know what time it is. Your optional are your speed and elevation. The Joyride is supposed to be easy and fun. Thus, I don't like to get hung up on statistics for this kind of ride. Keeping things like the timer, time of day are important to note for me, just to know, how long have I spent doing this? Typically active recovery rides are a little bit on the shorter side. Something also important to note is percent of maximum heart rate. So if you're doing an active recovery ride, typically we want to keep it less than 68% of your maximum heart rate. That helps facilitate better recovery, flush out all the byproducts of a hard day's effort the day before, keeps you in a consistent routine, doesn't put too much stress on the body to recover a little bit faster, and keeping your powers on the pedals less than 55%. So that's where 3-second power and percent of max heart rate comes into play. This should be super easy. Obviously, if you're coming up any elevation or any hills, this is gonna affect your ability to put only 55% of your max power. So just keep that in mind. And if you have an elevation coming up, having that number there also might be able to help in case you just need to prepare yourself for what's coming. Number 4, the group ride. Important metrics to note here: your 3-second power, the timer, the distance, normalized power, heart rate, and average speed. Your optional ones, whatever you want. In a group ride, I like knowing my 3-second power to see how hard I'm pushing in specific segments, right? Especially if I'm in the front pulling the group, I don't want to spend too much time blowing any matches or putting out too much power in that time. So having a timer, or optional is lap time, will allow me to pace myself and see how long I have been pushing for, if you're not riding in a pace line, for example. Distance is also important to note because maybe at the 40-kilometer mark, you guys are going to stop for a cup of coffee. Maybe, just having that in mind, at 40 kilometers, you're at 37, you only have 3 to go. So there's no point in rushing that last 3 because you guys are gonna be slowing down for a little bit. Normalized power is another interesting one. During group rides, your power fluctuates a lot. You're pedaling, you get too close, you back off, you stop pedaling, and then you keep going again. You ride into the wind, you ride out of the wind, stuff like that. So you're giving yourself micro breaks. What normalized power does is it takes that power, average power, takes all the zeros out and averages what you would have had if you kept on pedaling the entire time. In other words, it's the power your body thought that it did. It's the power that you would have done if you pedaled continuously without stopping. So if this is the power that your body thinks it did, then it may signal if you have to take it easy. Maybe seeing your normalized power is really close to your FTP signals you might be pushing a little bit hard. You still have 2 hours left in the group ride. Take it a little bit easier. And also your heart rate also tells you when to take it easy. Keep in mind that number might be skewed simply because you're in a group ride, you're talking to others, you had a coffee, whatever. And finally, speed or average speed. Especially if the group is aiming for, let's say, 32 kilometers an hour, it's cool to note what that is and to either push yourself a little bit harder or not slow the group down or whatever. It's just a good number to note. Circumstance number 5, the race. Important metrics to note: 3-second power, heart rate, speed, distance or distance remaining, average lap power, cadence, elevation or elevation remaining. When you're racing, if you know what you are capable of in terms of putting down watts in the pedals, then having a head unit and a power meter is going to be invaluable. 3-second power obviously tells you the average of the last 3 seconds that you are putting into the pedals and how hard you're pushing in that moment. But lap power can tell you how hard you've been pushing for a longer amount of time. It will tell you if you have more room to push or if you're overreaching. So let's just give an example. Let's say you're doing a time trial, half an hour. You know that your FTP is 300 watts. You click on lap time and it is showing you that for the first 10 minutes, you've only been doing 260 watts. So you know for the next 10 minutes and the next 10 minutes after that, you actually could go a little bit more because your FTP is much higher than that. And thus it helps you pace your efforts. But if you did 320 watts for the first 10 minutes, then you might have gone a little bit too hard and you might know that you need to slow down. Heart rate also shows you how your body is reacting to the work that you're doing. Distance or distance to go can be super valuable if you have the course already set up in your Garmin or your head unit, and so you know exactly how much is left in that course, and elevation to go as well, especially if it's a hilly route. Cadence helps you keep your efforts consistent, and speed, of course, because it's a race. Now, optional, you can add stamina, which also is a feature I'm not really a big fan of, but it is there to help you see if, how much you have left in the tank. Not the most accurate thing, but it's an option. Circumstance number 6, and this is my favorite one, the KOM. If you have Strava, chances are you have seen certain segments and how well you've done and wanted to challenge yourself on those segments to see how you compare with others, and that's KOM. Now, what's cool about the Garmin, I don't know about anything else, but the Garmin does have a KOM screen, and it has been one of the best things I've used for actually helping me get those KOMs. And it's called Live Segment. You need to have your Garmin connected to your Strava account. And then in Strava, go ahead and find a segment that you like and just click the star button. Open up Garmin Connect on your phone and sync it to your Garmin. When you're approaching the segment, a screen will pop up, and this screen tells you exactly where the segment starts, where it ends. It shows you a map. It tells you your current power and how much time you need to reach the end of the segment given the current power that you are putting down. And it also shows you your previous PR and the KOM's PR, and if you are ahead or behind that and by how much time. For me, this gives a huge motivation boost to go for that KOM, especially seeing I'm only 1 second behind the leaderboard. Just something to note, you have to turn on the live segment in the Garmin settings, and you cannot have a workout going on at the same time. Circumstance number 7, the where the heck am I?
Who's the guy you need to know when you've got a place to go? What's my name? The map! Say it again!
Your map. This is the navigation feature of the Garmin. If you get lost, it has the ability to bring you back home. You can either use the most direct route or the route that you already came on from. These routes also show you the elevation and the distance to get back home depending on which one you're taking. And obviously it has a GPS to recalculate if you get off track. Another thing that's pretty cool that the Garmin does if you have the map downloaded is it shows you things like potential water stations, schools, grocery stores, ponds and lakes and parks, convenience stores, connecting roads, and little paths that you can take, and also roads that you probably shouldn't ride on because it's not safe. And it also shows you the segments you have starred on the map. Circumstance number 8, this song sucks. 0. How do I change it? And that's where the music function comes into play. If you have your AirPods or earphones in during a workout and you are not enjoying the song that's playing, you can have a music screen specifically to change the song. You can go back, you can go forward, you can go pause, you can raise the volume, you can lower the volume, provided that your phone is connected to your Garmin. And finally, circumstance number 9 is the climb. Garmin has a specific climbing screen called Climb Pro, which you have to turn on. And it's a pretty cool feature. If you have a big climb coming up, it can be very helpful and valuable to know the information that's coming up and pace your efforts. It shows the upcoming climb, at what distances they occur, their lengths and their gradients, and it color codes them. Now, the climb must be a minimum of 500 meters in length and an average gradient of around 3% or higher. It shows you your elevation, your speed, and how much you have left with distance to go as well. I think it's super helpful. I personally love that feature, especially if I'm going up any big climbs. It shows me, oh gosh, I'm gonna have a 14% gradient coming up. I should probably pace this effort right now and not go all out. Well, there you have it. Those are my favorite Garmin data screens and how to set them up, with which statistics to have for all the different circumstances that I myself have ridden. If there's anything I've missed, feel free to share it in the comments. If this has been helpful, give it a thumbs up. And if you're looking to take your fitness to the next level this winter, shoot me a follow on Instagram, DM me the word watts, and let's have a conversation and see what we can do to help. See you next time.